I played so many games in March, maybe too many games. So a lot of them aren't going to be in this video. That said, I will link videos that I did on extra games, demos, etc. down in the description, so if you really want to follow along, you can. So far, I've released videos on most of the things I played, and for a couple things coming out soon, so get subscribed, leave a like while you're down there, and check out my other channel. With that said, the first thing I played in March was actually a game that came out at the very end of February, Monster Hunter Wilds. And don't get me wrong, Monster Hunter Wilds is a pretty good game. I can absolutely see why people like Monster Hunter as a series. It is very much not for me. I enjoyed the early part of the game, where, it followed the story, introduced the characters, or I guess I should say the world because the characters weren't all that memorable, introduced all the monsters. Loved it. But then, the more I got to the end game, the less I ended up liking it, and the more I ended up finding it to be an equal parts boring and frustrating experience. And I know, if you're a fan of Monster Hunter, you're going to be yelling, but that's when it gets good, and that is why I say the game series isn't for me. I am not asking Monster Hunter to change, I'm just saying I'm probably not going to be checking it out. Though admittedly, on my review, a whole bunch of people were like, no, you have to check it out again when the DLC drops, when there's Master Rank, when it's actually hard and all that. Maybe. Have not said yes, that is not a promise. Haven't said no. And you know what, if Monster Hunter's never for me, that's also totally fine. I think there's two things that caused the experience to tarnish. The first is, right now, I'm really liking single-player games. And the end game, the grind and all that, it just felt a little bit too live servicey, which, fair play, it is a live service, or live service light. New monsters are being added all the time. In fact, right around when this video is going up, there's going to be a new monster added in the title update, all sorts of extra cool stuff. And then the other thing that I didn't like very much is the way the game controlled. It's not that it's janky, it's actually pretty smooth. There's just something about the button choices and the number of menus that you have to interact with that absolutely drove me up a wall. From what I've heard, this is a little bit better on keyboard and mouse, but for most games that have a stamina bar, I'm probably going to be playing it on controller by default, because I found movement speed to be way smoother when you can use intercardinal directions, as opposed to just left, right, up, down, and also having to hit other buttons with the same hand while using the arrow keys to move around, because I don't have a proper MMO mouse anymore. Which is a lot to say, yeah, Monster Hunter, not really for me. And I said that in my review. And I'm going to be honest, posting that review, I was a little worried because I know fans can get pretty defensive of their stuff, but for Monster Hunter community's credit, most people were really chill. Couple weirdos, couple people I had to ban because they went way too far. Almost everyone else, they're cool, so good job. So there's a good chance this is the last time you're going to hear me talking about Monster Hunter Wilds. Then again, I don't know, maybe when the DLC comes out, I'll actually take people's advice, try it again, and see how I feel. After that, I caught up with a bunch of smaller games, including Fly Night. Again, not going to be in the video, but check the channel. There's a couple other videos out, including a review of both Fly Night and I Am Legion Stand Survivors. Then I got to Wanderstop, which is a game about burnout and what happens if you try to chase past success. This really resonated with me. I don't know, maybe it's because there's certain parallels between being a game maker and being a content creator, in that through the process of creation, you're putting yourself into something else, and it definitely feels like sometimes your success has very little to do with the things you do. Like, I've posted videos that I don't think are that good, but they do really well and everyone loves them. And I've posted videos that I think are great and I put a lot of time and effort into. And, well, okay, people usually still love them, thankfully, but nobody watches them. So maybe they don't love them that much. I don't know. Either way, the game really, really resonated with me. And I absolutely love the attention to detail. Like, there are in-game books, and it is a full story. There's a cohesive, like, Dirk Warhard, pseudo James Bond narrative universe that is explored throughout the story. It is awesome. And so yes, a Wanderstop review is going up on my channel very soon. I really loved the game. I think it's great. Do not go into it expecting the Stanley Parable, because it is not the Stanley Parable. And if anything, it is a game about how it's not the Stanley Parable. Then I ended the month with the first Berserker Khazan, which is a Souls-like? Or maybe it's a spectacle fighter. Because sure, a lot of the presentation is very Souls-like. The combat is quite difficult, brutally so at times. You have a stamina bar. You can block, you can parry, you can dodge, all the things you would expect from a Souls-like, and oh yes, there are boss fights. But you also have the ability to string together super fluid combos. You can use your spirit to unleash OP special abilities that can do things like negate enemy attacks, just give you kind of a parry wall, dodge around foes, deal damage to stagger them and break their stance. all sorts of things that let you break the elements of the game that make it a Souls-like. And if you chain them together correctly, you are able to do massive damage and obliterate huge sections of a boss's health, or wipe out a big chunk of their stamina bar so that you can more easily stagger them. The combat is not slow, heavy, and intentional. Instead, it is fast, fluid, and dynamic in a way that is super, super fun. And so, I've been having a blast with the game. I think there are a couple of abilities from bosses, maybe a little bullshit, delayed attacks, the usual stuff that everyone complains about with all of these games. I'll probably have more thoughts when I finish the game and review it in full. So far, I'm having an absolute blast. And something else that Khazan does, which is very different from most other Souls-likes, is the main way you get Lacrima, think runes, souls, etc., is from fighting bosses, not fighting trash, because every time you fight a boss, based on how low you got its health, you get an amount of Lacrima. So, if you are stuck in a boss and you are struggling, you don't go and farm trash for like a million times. Okay, maybe you can, maybe it's more efficient. I don't know, I don't care. Because every time you fail, you get more Lacrima, which you can use to level up. And it feels so good to finally level up a couple times, get those just few points of extra damage or a little more health or a little more stamina, and make it past the boss you've been struggling on. It makes for a really rewarding gameplay loop. In addition to this, the sound design is impeccable. The graphics have that like over-the-top anime violence that feels really cool brings it back to when you were a 17-year-old edgelord sort of way. But with all that said, it's not for everyone, because it is a really demanding game. It is stressful and you have to pay attention. This isn't a sort of brain-off game where you can just chill. In fact, I find myself paying a lot more attention when playing Khazan than even when I'm playing something like Dark Souls or Elden Ring. With that said, I'm only a bit over halfway through the game, so maybe some of my thoughts will change by the end. And then last up, a bonus game, or more accurately, a bonus preview, and that is Clair Obscur Expedition 33. I first saw this through one of the Microsoft Xbox Directs. It looked pretty cool, but a flashy trailer a game does not make. That said, it also looked to have some really interesting ideas, blending the turn-based combat of Persona with real-time or maybe even Souls mechanics. Turns out, that is even better in practice than it is in a trailer, because oh my god, this game feels so good. There's a sense of art, the storytelling is amazing, the dialogue between the characters just feels so real and visceral, and I cannot wait to play this. I would not be surprised if Clair Obscur Expedition 33 ends up being my game of the year. I know that is a bold statement to be making in March, but if the rest of the game is as gripping as the preview was, it is certainly the best game that I've played this year so far, and I don't see too many things on the horizon to challenge it. So I'm very much looking forward to playing the game when it comes out later in April. For now, if you have any interest in Clair Obscur, please do watch my hands-on video. Again, this is one of those things, like I said earlier in the Wanderstop section. Sometimes I put a lot of effort into a video, I'm really proud of it, I'm really happy with it, and it doesn't quite get the views. That is exactly what happened with my preview for Clair Obscur. And so if you have any interest in the game or the genre, I'd really appreciate it if you took a minute and watched that video after this. And that is where I'm going to wrap things up, at least for this month. Of course, I'm still reviewing more games, and I'm still kind of working on how I review games. Once I've decided and kind of crystallized all my thoughts, I will be making a video on how I review games, or more accurately, I will be making an update video, because I did already make that in the past. A lot's changed since I made that last video, but I still haven't quite decided how all the pieces are going to fit together. Like, do I just recommend a game? Do I give it a rating? Does the rating have a number? If you've seen some of my recent reviews, some of them have ratings, some of them... Actually, I don't think any of them have numbers yet, but I'm going to experiment with it soon. Maybe for first Berserker Khazan. And all of them have recommendations, because that's really important to me, and I'm not going to be changing it. And so yeah, those are the best games that I played in March of 2025. Again, I'd really appreciate it if you checked out my video on Clair Obscur Expedition 33. In addition, maybe you've already seen it. Some of the other things I've been playing are up in the card and down below. For now, thank you very much for watching to the end. Let me know what games you've been playing this month, and I'll see you next month with my thoughts on more games.